Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Board Game Captain,
I'm Lynn.
and today we're going to be reviewing and showing you how to play the Choose Your Own Adventure House of Danger, a cooperative adventure game. Based on the book by R.A. Montgomery, which was called House of Danger. It was one of the Choose Your Own Adventure books. This game was designed by Prospero Hall and was published by Z-Man Games. Now, the game is listed as being for ages 10 and up, for one or more players, and 60 minutes per chapter.
And there are 5 chapters.
And there are 5 chapters. So they're expecting you to play a single chapter as a single session. We wound up playing a few chapters back to back because the 60 minutes, I mean, if you're thorough.
Yeah, because you can go back and try and find things that you didn't find the first time, and we didn't bother doing.
Yeah, we like kind of we've played through the entire campaign, all the chapters once, and most of our chapters came in, I think, significantly less than that. We had some that were like half an hour to 40 minutes, so they were much shorter. Now the ages 10 and up, I mean, all you really need to be able to do to play this game is be able to read well. So I think that might be a bit of an overestimate. What do you think? I think you could play this if you were younger.
Well, I think it's because you take turns reading the cards. So if you're not a comfortable reader or a good reader,
so as long as you can read well and reliably and quickly, I think you're old enough to play this game regardless of your age.
And it's probably the same reading level as the book it's based on, which I did read the book.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, I would. It's middle grade.
Yeah. So
10 and up,
Now the one or more players. So basically, this is a thoroughly cooperative game in which you are all basically playing out the part of the main character of the book. It's like a choose your own adventure book. If you are old enough to remember those, they are still around, but not as popular as they were back in like the 80s and early 90s. And it's like a choose-your-own adventure book turned into a game. Because you still have the choices like you did in the choose-your-own adventure book, and instead of telling you to go to a page, it tells you to go to a card. But then in addition, there's some things you may have to roll a die for to succeed at, and then it tells you whether you succeeded or not to go to a specific card, or to keep trying, or something of that sort, depending on what it is. So let's open it up and we'll show what comes in the box. So the first thing is the rule book. Now, the rule book, you read the rule book and taught me on this one. What is your opinion on the rule book?
I think it is clear and concise.
It's only, what, seven pages? It's pretty easy. It's got lots of diagrams. So you had no trouble with the rule book. Is this a very good rule book, would you say? All right. Next thing we have here is the main board. Now, the main board, on one side you have this nice illustration. And on the other side, you have the functional areas for your current goal of the current chapter. The challenge booster, if you want to plug a challenge booster into the board, those are items that can give you a bonus to your rolls. And then the current danger meter, which sets your current level of challenge that you need to roll. And the psychic scale, because sometimes cards will refer to your current level of psychic scale. It might say, if you are at psychic scale level 3, you have the option to do this, but if you're not, you don't get that option. And now, I have a little complaint about this board. So, I mean, it's functional. It does what it's supposed to do, but this picture, which is really cool, they tell you, look at it and try to remember it, because there's clues in here to stuff going on in the game. And then on the actual front of the board that you use, it's just plain white behind the gauges. I really feel like they should have put this picture behind here.
Because you're supposed to remember it. You're not supposed to refer to it.
Yeah, but
the game.
I think what they should have done is not told you to remember to it. Just have it be like hidden clues that they don't even bother mentioning, and just put it behind the gauges, because this is kind of boring, I think.
I think that's fine. It tells you what you need, and that's it. It doesn't have any superfluous
It's functional
background things that you seem to want.
Bit of a difference of opinion. It's functional. I think it could be prettier, though. The next thing we've got is...
It's got a rainbow on it for the psychic scale. How much prettier do you want to get?
I want the picture. I want a picture in the background. I just told you how much prettier I want it to be. It's got a pawn and a token. One is for the psychic scale, the other for the danger meter, and it's got a 6-sided die. These are fairly standard components, not much to talk about here. It's a plastic cube for the token of plastic pawn. Then we've got some cards. Why don't you pull out the cards? There's two different types of cards. You've got the tiny cards, and you've got the larger story cards. So
these are items that you just start with.
Yes, you always start with a pocket knife and a bottle of water. And the pocket knife is something that can be plugged into the board in the challenge booster to add +1 to your roll for if you are trying to do a combat roll, and it shows the fist there. Whereas the bottle of water allows you to discard at any time to lower the danger meter by 3 spaces.
These are the story cards. This is the card that you always keep on top of the story card.
And that's to hide so you don't read ahead and see what's going on. Now, we're going to do this fairly spoiler-free. We're only going to show you the first story card when we're showing you how to play the game so we don't get too ahead of it.
These story cards are going to have options on it, asking you where you want to go, what you want to do. And depending on what you choose, these little cards are going to be clues or inventory items or psychic visions that you get that will help you along your way.
So without any further ado, we're going to take you to the table and show you how this game plays. Now, we're only going to take you up until the first decision, so we won't do any spoilers for you. So don't worry, this will be spoiler-free. But we're going to show you the basics of how you would start a game, and we're going to talk about how these meters work and such, and how you would start a game of Choose Your Own Adventure, House of Danger. Then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about how this game feels. We're going to review it and rate it.
Here is a setup for Choose Your Own Adventure, House of Danger. And the first thing that all the players do is they look at this board and try to remember as many things as possible because there are clues in there. And then once you do that, I think the book says you have like 2 minutes or something to look at it. You flip it over. You put the danger mover, that's what they call it in the book, the danger mover, not the danger cube, which I think is a cooler name, is danger cube.
Yeah, I think so too.
And they put the danger mover on the bottom 3, and the psychic pawn starts on the 3. And then we have the clue cards over here, and the story cards over here. The story cards will tell you what clue cards you get, and basically, the story cards tell you everything you need to know. They tell you when to move the danger meter, when to move the psychic scale. Here are the inventory items that you start with. You start with a pocket knife that gives you +1 to your fighting. And you start with a bottle of water that you can discard to lower the danger meter by 3.
Now, in order to use the knife, you have to plug it into the board like so. Before you roll for a challenge. It's going to give you +1 to your roll. Now, all challenges, you have to roll the number or better that is on the danger meter. So if to start with it's a 3, this would bring it down to a 2. However, if you roll a 1, that is an automatic failure. And if you fail when using an item, you lose the item. In addition, many challenges will also note that if you fail, you may have to raise the danger meter.
Yes. There are optional challenges and mandatory challenges. The cards will tell you which is which, just how it sounds. Mandatory ones you must do, and optional ones you can choose whether or not to attempt them.
Now, some items, when some challenges, when succeeded, may allow you to raise your psychic scale, and some things, when failed, may have to raise the danger meter. If the danger meter gets all the way to the top, what happens is you get -2 to your current psychic scale, and then it will go back down to the top 3 there.
Okay.
So we're going to start off?
Yep, I think and you always keep the cover on top of there because you don't want to read ahead.
So what I do is I'm going to pull out this one. Lynn is going to be going first, so I'm going to read to her.
And also one other thing that I forgot to mention, when you discard the story cards, you always discard it with the page number side up, because you can die, but all that does is it brings you back to the last page you were on, and then you choose a different option. So you just always need to know what last page you're on.
Okay, so the beginning says The Grounds, Chapter 1. It's a Tuesday morning in late June, and you wake up in a cold sweat. The nightmares came again last night. Even though you are an aspiring detective, and psychic investigator. You haven't been able to make sense of the haunting dreams you've had these past few weeks. In your dreams, you keep seeing the same spooky house. You're still shivering under the covers when you hear the phone ring downstairs in your basement, where you have your combination office and research laboratory. You dash down to the lab and answer it. I need, a weak voice says when you pick up the receiver. I need your help. You hear a loud click and the phone goes dead. But you were prepared. While the caller was talking, you activated your high-speed telephone tracing device. It instantly displays the caller's number, 555-7259. Can you tell this was written before we had caller ID? You call back the number right away, and there's no answer. After consulting the tall stack of reverse phone books behind your desk, you are disappointed to learn the number is unlisted. You sense that the phone call is somehow related to your nightmares. Later, while at the Hedgebrook police station to return a night scope you borrowed for a recent stakeout, you describe the mysterious phone call and then it is continued on story card 1. And your reoccurring dreams to your friend, Sergeant Morrison. The call does sound strange, he says. We'll look into it. And about that house in your dreams, a voice says from the hallway, I wonder if you're dreaming about the Marsden house out on Hedgebrook Road. Detective Murphy sticks his mustached face in the room. Modern house, ornate gate. That sounds like the Marsden place, all right, says Sergeant Morrison. Strange things are reported to happen there. Detective Murphy takes a puff on his pipe. That place is haunted, he says. I know it sounds unprofessional, but I've had a file on the Marsden house for years, and I'm sure of it. He waves a folder in front of your eyes, and a phone number written on the front jumps out at you. It matches the one from your mysterious phone call. So the call is related to your nightmares. Your psychic senses were right. Draw clue number 26 to discover your goal.
So then these are all numbered, and it's 26.
Now these are specifically the decks you use for chapter 1. There are later decks when you move into the other chapters.
This says, our goal is to get inside the Marsden house, and you pop that right here.
To now show what the goal is for the chapter. Back at home, you grab a bottle of water and your trusty pocket knife, preparing for a new investigation. Half an hour later, you stand before the Marsden residence, which appears exactly as it did in your nightmares. The house's futuristic look is a strange contrast to the antiquated appearance of the stone wall and the wrought iron gate, which is locked shut and wrapped in steel chains. Even though the air is balmy, a chill travels down your spine. The gathering clouds on the horizon hint at a brewing summer storm. Now we have our first choice. If you search the wall for a way in, you would go to story card 13. If you climb the gate, go to story card 7. So now, here's where we're going to stop it so we don't spoil anything. But you see, here are the choices on the bottom, and it tells you exactly what you need to do. So now at this point, Lynn and I, or anyone else playing, would start to discuss. Should we search for secret passages in the wall, or maybe a break in the wall, or should we just hop the fence? But since it's Lynn's turn, she will have the final say, and she might say hop the fence or search the wall. That's going to be her choice. Now, when she does, I'm going to draw the appropriate card as listed on the bottom and hand it to her, and she will begin reading that card because I will get the next choice. And that's how you play a game. And again, you go through, you do the challenges as you see fit. If you need to roll the die, a challenge die, you have to do the current danger meter number or better to succeed. And sometimes it might refer to options specifically if you are at a current psychic level, which is psychic level 1 up to number 5, psychic level 2 up to number 10, and so on and so forth, as you can see around the board here. And that's everything. So now let's head back to the table and we'll talk about how this game feels and we'll rate it and review it. Okay, so that was how you play a game of Choose Your Own Adventure House of Danger, which, by the way, is exclusively, I believe, being sold at Target. It's a fairly affordable game. We picked it up on a whim because Lynn is a super fan of the Choose Your Own Adventure books. How many of them have you read at this point? Like 40?
Yeah.
I was going to say, you've read quite a few.
I read them as a kid too, but the ones
that you've reread as an adult.
I've reread, I have 40 of them and I've read them all.
So, and you've read this particular
Yes.
one. You have read The House of Danger.
Yes, I have read, I do own House of Danger.
So, to start with, is this different enough, now, because I haven't read House of Danger, is this different enough from House of Danger that if someone's already read House of Danger, it's still thoroughly enjoyable?
Yeah, there are, I didn't read every single
Path.
ending
Okay.
and path in the book. I read a couple until I was satisfied with my ending, and that's what I usually do. If I get like a super awesome ending my first try, I don't, unless I'm curious about certain things, I don't usually go back. But there are things there are a lot of things in here that are in the book, but I guess I can't really say for sure if there are things that aren't because I haven't read all the different paths.
But there did seem to be enough differences.
Yeah, but there was enough differences that, I mean...
So that's important. Now, this is a storytelling game at its root. And while storytelling games are usually more your forte than mine, I like this game. I don't mind the thoroughly cooperative nature in this game. I really get into it, the going back and forth. But I would like to say that I prefer... Now, I mean, it says 1 or more players, but I think this game is better at fewer players. I would say 2 to 3. Because otherwise you're waiting too long not doing anything. At 2 players, one person's reading and the other person's making the decisions. At 3 players, one person's reading, one person's making the decisions, and one person's not doing anything. More than that, you have too many people not doing anything. One person taking one turn of not doing anything and then getting back into either reading or doing something, I think isn't too bad. What's your opinion on the with the players?
Well, even though it sets it up where you hand the card to the person to your left and they read it, and the person to their whatever is answering, I guess you could do some kind of like voting or just talk about it and try and figure out the best thing.
Well, talking and discussion is something we did do while we were playing it.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't just yes, the final say was whoever's turn it was, but we were playing this 2-player, and while you were reading, you would say, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea." And there are plenty of times I asked you, I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. What do you think I should do?" Or vice versa. Like you were doing something and I was like, I know it's your decision, but my 2 cents are we should go left, or something like that. And then, you make the decision, but we definitely did discuss.
Yeah.
And overall, I would say it played very well. And as a cooperative game, it was enjoyable. I actually like this a lot better than a lot of other cooperative games. And I mean, that's saying something. I'm not usually a big cooperative game person, and I'm also not usually a big storytelling game person, but I enjoyed this game. I really, really had fun with it. I mean, what do you think? What are your opinions on the playing of this game, on how it feels?
I thought it felt just like reading a Choose Your Own Adventure book, but with more things instead of just flipping pages.
Because you can roll dice.
Yeah, you had to roll dice. You had to change the stuff on the meter. There were the boosters,
Now, I did read some of these as a kid, and this hits a nostalgia button for me because it does make me think of the old Choose Your Own Adventure books. But like you say, it is turned into a game. So now this was your purchase. Why don't you go first then with your rating, unless you want to go second?
I don't care.
All right, so how many stars are you going to give it out of 10?
I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 stars.
Whoa! That's incredibly high. So, I mean, you love this game. Now, I want to talk about a couple other things. Replayability I want to discuss. So there was a lot of these storytelling escape room games where you can play them once and they're done, and then you got to give them to someone else. I think this is a little better than that, but the replayability is limited. I would say you could probably go through this about maybe 3 times. 2 to 3.
Does it? I don't know if it says how many endings. The books will usually say like 19 different endings on the cover or something.
Let me see.
I don't know if it says how many different endings.
I thought I saw something where it did, but that might have been in the rule book or something. But yeah, I know it does have quite a few endings, but I would say, because by the time you've done it about 3 times, you've done so many of the different choices that It may not be interesting enough to go beyond that. So I would say maybe you could get away with 3 plays. But and usually that sort of limiting factor will be a big negative for me. But it's not bad. I mean, for what this is, I think 3 plays is probably pretty good. Because like I say, it's way better than those escape room games where it's like 1 play and you're done.
Well, it can also, because it is storytelling and there's different options and things, it just like reading a book. You can wait like 4 or 5 years, play it again. You might not remember fully
That's true.
what's going on.
You could play it down the road. So again, you were giving it 9 stars. Now I'm going to rate it, and I am going to give the Choose Your Own Adventure House of Danger game 7 out of 10 stars. So that is 2 thumbs up from us here. We both really like this game. 9 stars from Lynn, 7 stars from me. I will play this game anytime Lynn asks, until we've played most of the choices. I have a feeling we're going to go through the campaign probably about 3 times before I get to that point. But I think that qualifies as a 7 for a game with this sort of limited playability. Lynn obviously adores this game at 9 stars. So there you have it. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns either on the Choose Your Own Adventure House of Danger game or on this video, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this review and tutorial and you'd like to see us do more like it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the board game Kaptain, that's Kaptain spelled with a K, on YouTube, and hit that little bell icon on my channel so you get alerts every time I upload a new video. And until next time, game on.